You are now locked in the Conspiracy Asylum. Your straitjacket and padded cell awaits.
Hello and welcome to the Conspiracy Asylum. This is DJ Schwartz once again, and we're going to be doing a solo episode today. And this episode's going to be on the Nazi Bell Die Glock. Die Glock. Once again, if you do not know what the Nazi Bell is, or Die Glock, do not fear. Conspiracy Asylum's got your back. We're going to educate that ass. Disclaimer. Just because we're doing an episode on Hitler does not mean that I am a proponent of the Nazi movement. I hate Nazis. I think they all should go to hell and die. So I wanted to get that out of the way because I know a lot of people think if you're doing an episode on something evil like this, that you're supporting it. And I am not. Let's do some Conspiracy Asylum trivia. Now, last week, we did on the solo episode a trivia question on the RFK episode. And the question was, what was RFK's assassin's name? What was his name? His name was Sirhan. And there's a lot of questions about the RFK assassination if you did not listen to that episode. It is one of the few that you look through that you would think that maybe it was a Manchurian candidate. Maybe it was some type of mind control, which is the Manchurian candidate. Something to do with MK Ultra, perhaps. But this week, on the solo episode, the Conspiracy Asylum trivia question is going to be on, let's do Stan Romanek. That was our very first official episode. I know that I did a couple episodes before that, but they were crap. Stan Romanek was the first one that I qualify as a good episode. And the question is, according to Stan Romanek, the lying son of a bitch. That's what I feel about it. If you haven't listened to that episode, I just spoiled it for you. The opinion of mine is that he's a lying son of a bitch, and he's a child molester, and he deserves to go to hell. The question is, I know we do a lot of names for trivia questions, but what was the name of his supposed interdimensional daughter? His daughter that he made up in a spaceship by fucking an alien. Go ahead. Hit us up. theconspiracyasylum@gmail.com. You can also hit us up at our various points of contact, such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Patreon, dollar, all the way up to $10 gets you 2 bonus episodes every month. And it's pretty much a random selection because this show we go from paranormal to extraterrestrial, supernatural, true crime. We're kind of all over the place. So that's the way the Patreon episodes are going to work too. There's going to be no rhyme or reason for them, but you will get 2 bonus episodes. Now let's get on with the Nazi Bell. Now most of you may be wondering, what is the Nazi Bell? It is something that isn't talked about in history books. You ain't going to learn this in school because it was too controversial. Some say it's a time travel device. Others say it is some type of nuclear weapon. There's a lot of rumors about the Nazi Bell. There are a lot of rumors about the Nazis in general, with how much they knew. They were way ahead of the United States and the Soviet Union when it came to technology of any sort. If the Nazis were involved in the Cold War, they probably would have won the Cold War. Now, it doesn't take away from the fact that they're fucking evil as hell, and they deserve to get raped up the butthole. I don't wish rape on anybody, except for the Nazis. Die, motherfucker, die. But the Nazi Bell. For decades, there have been scattered rumors of Die Glock, meaning the bell in German, a space-going UFO-like saucer craft developed by World War II Nazis. Mounting evidence is now confirming that Nazi-era Germans developed advanced technologies that allowed them to make covert missions off Earth. Now, newly resurfaced documents and personal interviews confirm a secret Nazi space program. It is reported that Nazi technology allowed the Germans to travel beyond Earth using a design called the Nazi Bell, aka Die Glock. At the heart of the German space program, the Nazi Bell, may have played a role in the development of Earth-based UFO technology. Now, to remind everybody, a lot of people get lost in it, that UFO means unidentified flying object. A lot of people don't take that for face value, and they think it's a flying saucer right away, or it's an alien spacecraft. A UFO is something unidentified that's flying in the fucking air. Fucking UFO. Now we're gonna get a little deeper into exactly what this Bell fucking thing is. What was the Nazi Bell? Those who claim the Nazis visited the moon, Mars, and possibly the Aldebaran solar system often speak of evidence of the Bell in quotations. I don't know if that's Aldebaran or what. I am just guessing. I'm horrible at pronunciations, but you can look it up yourself. I do believe this is from the MoveOn website, the very reliable website that I have found. I am a free member of MoveOn. I am not a paying member because I'm broke. This craft had an unknown energy source that was capable of powering sustained flight beyond Earth's orbit. Although the energy technology was unknown to the rest of the world, it was a central component of Germany's secret space program that began more than a century before. There were a lot of rumors that they used the Bell to try and reunify Nazi Germany. They were basically using it saying, hey, we got this advanced technology. That means we're advancing and we all need to come together and just be part of the Nazi party so we can be successful. Now, the Nazi Bell was shaped similar to like a church bell. Now, they found what they think is like the landing pad for the Nazi Bell. And we'll go through, there's plenty of rumors exactly what this thing did and how it was used and who created it. Witnesses say that the Bell craft was 12 to 15 feet high and roughly 12 feet wide. Those who claim to have knowledge of the Bell say it was fabricated with a very hard and heavy metal, along with lighter metal referred to as like metal. I am not going to be able to pronounce these German words. I'm sorry, guys, but it's like metal. All right, let's step back and look into the Nazi space program a little bit. Now, in my opinion, and in a lot of people's opinions, if the Nazis were involved in the space race in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, if they were involved in that space race at all, the Nazis would have probably won. Most of the scientists that work with NASA and that work with the Soviet Union space program were Nazis. And they came to America and to the Soviet Union. And when they came to America, we basically split them up. And when they came to America, it was an operation called Operation Paperclip. So Operation Paperclip gave us the ability to give Nazis immunity in exchange for them to work on our space program. And Werner von Braun and his V2 rocket team were a key part of us getting to space. If you think about it, we didn't get to space until the 50s. And I'm talking about shooting things into space, not even a human. The Nazis most likely would have, at the very latest, the late 40s, they would have been in space. They probably would have been the first people on the moon. If you think that we landed on the moon, they probably would have won the space race. Not to promote the Nazis. Once again, they were horrible fucking people. They had a lot of intelligent people that worked for them. Now, a lot of Nazi scientists, you have to give them the benefit of the doubt with some stuff because a lot of them were either following orders or had really nothing to do with the atrocities that happened. There are plenty of scientists and doctors and medical physicians that did have something to do with everything that happened. Of course, the concentration camps and all of that. But most of the scientists were just doing what scientists in America do and working on advancing our civilization as a whole. Now, ever since Adolf Hitler's 1,000-year Third Reich was utterly defeated, this awful regime has held a horrid fascination in the popular imagination. One aspect that interests many is Nazi Germany's frightening array of military hardware. Despite an astonishingly corrupt and incompetent procurement bureaucracy, the Nazis fielded some very technologically advanced weapons, and less mentioned many disastrous flops too. I could only imagine, because the Soviet Union had a lot that went wrong too. They killed so many astronauts when it came to the space race. They called their astronauts cosmonauts, so they had a lot of cosmonauts that lost their lives in the space race just because they wanted to get ahead. They didn't really care about their people. And it was the same thing with Nazi Germany. They didn't really care about their people. Nowadays, that's why people are comparing America now to Nazi Germany. I think it's wrong because there are plenty of differences, but they're kind of honing in on the one thing that America, the way the political system is ran, they're not really caring about the American people. They're just caring about their own political careers. So something has to change there. I don't have the answers for that. That's why I'm not going to bitch about it a bunch. I always say if you don't have any kind of solution, you can't really complain about the problem. Because you're not helping by complaining about the problem. You're not giving any solutions to the problem. Then at that point, you're just bitching. So that's what I think. Among the successes were the Tiger heavy tanks, assault rifle, infrared night sights, the excellent Focke-Wulf fighter planes, and the Me-262 fighter jets, and the V-2 ballistic missile. Yeah, the V-2 ballistic missile changed everything. When it came to warfare, when it came to going to space, it changed everything on Earth. Having Werner von Braun and his team come over here and work with NASA with the V2 technology, it was crazy. We advanced years and years and years within a couple of months because of that. In the past few years, stories of other more amazing schemes from the Third Reich have appeared. Stories of intercontinental missiles and orbiting space planes, all adorned with swastikas, of course. Fucking pieces of shit. These started on the internet. For example, there are claims on Wikipedia, which you can't believe everything you read on Wikipedia. That's why I don't get most of my information from there. But on Wikipedia, there was a post on there about a rocket family back in 1945 saying that they made it to space. So, who knows? Because they would have been the only ones going to space, so no one can really prove it wrong. It's really hard to prove it. Are there the slightest grains of truth in these tales of Nazis in space? I believe it. I think the Nazis went to space. I think the Nazis went to space long before we even knew about it. And probably we found out about it and we covered it up because we didn't want to look like fucking idiots. They didn't want the American people going, well, they were so far advanced. How the hell weren't we even close to them? That makes us look like we're inferior to the Nazis. So they would have never brought that out. Now, I believe that's wrong, but on the same level, I don't think they wanted any good light shining on the Nazis so that people wouldn't question why we were at war with them, which it was a very good reason why we were at war with them. Don't get me wrong. My grandpa actually fought in World War II. It screwed him up pretty bad from what I understand. He died back when I was like 3 years old, so I really don't remember him. But the war really affected him, apparently. And of course, Germany was the first nation to field a ballistic missile in the sleek shape of Werner von Braun's V2. The name V2 for, oh my god, Vergeltungswaffe. Vergeltungswaffe 2. It's the vengeance weapon, too, in American, but it's Vergeltungswaffe 2. It was an invention of Nazi propagandists. Propagandists. That is a hard word to say. The Germans had begun sponsoring von Braun's research even before Hitler came to power, seeing missile weapons as an alternative to long-range artillery forbidden to post-World War I Germany. Yeah, so basically after World War I, we told Germany, you can't have shit. You don't get no more shit because you fuck shit up. Just a couple years ago, you went and fucked shit up, and now we gotta punish you. We're gonna help you rebuild your shit a little bit, which we didn't. We said we were going to, and we never did. And that's exactly why Hitler came to power, because we allowed it to happen. We let it happen. We destroyed this country and we did not help them rebuild. That is why you help rebuild. Built by a workforce of slaves laboring in hideous underground factories managed by sadistic murdering thugs, the A4 rocket, they're doing the A4 now, was a staggering futuristic rocket. Rising from its launch pad under 25 tons of thrust from its alcohol and liquid oxygen fueled engine, it could carry 2,150-pound warhead at supersonic speeds up to 314 kilometers, 195 miles per hour from its launch site. First successful launch in 1942, it was fired against Allied cities, including London, Antwerp, and Paris from 1944. Sometime in 1944, an A4 rocket reached an altitude of 117 miles, making it the first man-made object to reach space. This would have been a propaganda triumph for the Third Reich, but the Kamaran line, the boundary 62 miles above our heads, where space officially begins, was not yet defined at the time. So basically, they're saying that there's a boundary that they say the atmosphere ends and space begins. And that rocket went above that line, but back then, we did not know about that line. So there was no way to say, hey, he actually went to space, or hey, he actually shot that bitch into space. So the rockets after the V2 were A4, A5, all the way through 10. They planned 10 at least. And A10 wasn't even started. They didn't even start making components for it. They abandoned the project in 1943. The A9 and 10 was never referred to as the V3, V10, or any V designation. So they basically ended the V project at V2. And then they just went to A4. The Germans planned a piloted craft based on this research. Among the engineering drawings of the A9 discovered after the war were a set of sketches. They were sketches, not blueprints. They were just sketches. So you can't really build anything off of a sketch. You could, but it'd probably turn out like shit. Showing a piloted craft derived from the rocket, but with a pressurized cockpit and a tricycle undercarriage. This is like a fucking Frankenstein thing here. Capable of a maximum speed of Mach 3.4 at an altitude of 20 kilometers, its performance would have been astonishing for the 1940s. The purpose of the hypothetical vehicle is unclear. Many sources claim that this was meant as a suicide bomber, imagining a fanatical Nazi pilot steering his craft into the Empire State Building or the White House. Ignoring the infeasibility of this scenario, the craft had no space for a warhead and was not meant to land on a runway for use. Presumably, it was intended for high-speed research or just possibly reconnaissance missions. Combined with an A-10 booster, this manned craft could cross the Atlantic in 40 minutes or fly above the Kamaran line, which we mentioned before, making a Nazi pilot the first human in space, assuming it all worked as planned, an extremely unlikely prospect. Yeah, they're basing this on drawings right now.